Hey, 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 welcome back. Welcome back to the Scorpio channel. I've been having a little bit of problems with YouTube lately. I try to log on and it doesn't log on. I have to actually log off and then log back on for it to go on. I don't know what's up, but I just sent a notification to YouTube. So my apologies if I'm coming on a few minutes late. Got up early this morning and I'm like, why isn't this working? It's new, like all these new things that are changing with YouTube. And when that happens, it really does kind of throw off everything. It's like anything else, like when you try something new, it kind of feels a little bit awkward. It doesn't feel as natural. you know. And I bet you that has something to do with the reading. That feels like it was going to have something to do with the reading. I don't know. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Laura. I'm going to do a general message for Scorpio. Know that energy is fluid. Rules could be reversed. Just interpret the message as it best resonates with you. Also know that, the readings have a therapy style to them to help you see things from a different perception, because really that's what healing is. Healing is all about seeing things from a different perception, because there's many different realities that play it at one time. You need to ask yourself, why are you living the reality that you don't like, right? Especially when you're connected to a karmic, you know? So again, the readings dive deep. I also want to share that I will be doing a live stream on parentified. That's the topic tonight, and that's when children aren't allowed to be children. They're made to be parents, and the psychological and the emotional blockages that manifest within relationships because of that. And the reason why is because I still have the attachment rewiring challenge going on. And that's for people that tend to always be attracted to people that are emotionally not available. And it's usually because they have major intimacy issues, which is trust. Trust. So it doesn't mean that you don't want intimacy and that you don't try to have intimacy, but you continue to keep getting the same types of people that, don't care about your emotional well-being. And so we want to change that. Because who wants to be in a relationship with someone that never shows up for them, right? Nobody wants that. But understand, we become wired, and wired through our nervous system. So, in the live stream, I will give you healing protocols, but you're the alchemist of your life. You have to want to do the healing. You have to get tired of attracting the same types of people, the same types of experiences. That's what this channel is all about. So it's not for everybody. However, it's for the people that want to heal. All right. So that's going to be on at 8 o'clock. I'm also doing a members only video tonight, probably around 10 o'clock, maybe 10:30. I'm going to have it at all different times. And the reason why is because I have people from all over the world I want to offer, but my members are always more than welcome to be on at any time that they want and ask questions. There's always time for Q&A. All right, I just wanted to put that out there for you guys. Let's jump in. And my members only, it's that we do different topics, and it's just more interactive. You can ask questions. You can ask why certain things are the way that they are. And we do healing modality because it's not just about the awareness. We have to recondition how the body and mind deal with situations and experiences. Everything's habitual. We're programmed. And so to change outcomes, we need to change ourselves. So again, your shadow healing, which is my $7.99 a month subscription, is shadow healing. It's just group shadow healing, because I believe that healing is, you have to have a community. And the reason why is because if you've been abused and you told friends, or you told, new relationships or other people, they tend to judge you. And so you need to be able to share about what has transpired to you with people that have gone through similar situations, that people that can give advice, that it's a relationship that's a safe space, opposed to telling people now they have that information, to use against you. And that's not, and unfortunately, that happens. You'd think that people would be more conscious. No, people then are almost, it gives them a license to treat you bad because they already know that you've gone through that before. So having a safe space is important. I know that firsthand. I know that firsthand because I told everybody about the abuse that I went through, and no one cared. They didn't care. And that also gave me another layer on top of the layer. Like, why doesn't anyone care? Why doesn't anyone care about me? And that made me feel a certain way about me also. So I created something that I wish that I would have had. That's what that shadow healing is all about. But if you need healing, it's a much more reasonable way to do healing, because otherwise, who wants to do healing? Let's face it. Who would even know how to do healing? And you want that because the underlying energy is detachment and shadow dislocation. I mean, that alone tells me that you're dealing with someone that is like, they're not willing to look at like what they do. Everything is the other person's fault. And that is really difficult energy to be attached to. And that was just the two. Usually I pull two from this deck. So let's read these and then we'll read them together. Regret and pride. So it's not that this person doesn't have regrets, but they're not, if they was to sit and think about it, they would have regret. So they stay detached, and they stay detached to it is their pride. Understand, I don't want to see myself that way, that I'm the reason why you're not talking to me. I think that this person got triggered by something that you said or something that you wrote in a text message, some sort of correspondence back and forth. And they didn't read, when you don't read the text message all the way and you kind of read half and you get triggered. Well, I feel like that's kind of what happened with this person. And we're going to see why I feel that. Because they're prideful. They're to come back and say, I didn't read that properly. I thought that you were accusing me. I thought, because then they would have to show that they cared, right? And God forbid, the emotions are the gateway to spiritual healing. And so if this person actually saw, I can't stop thinking about you, well, that's because there's still feeling there. I feel like this person's pride got in the way. And when a person gets really mad, they're like, I don't care, almost like that. And then on top of it, to have read it wrong, to be triggered and react that way and act like now this person looks like an asshole, because they have to come back and be like, I'm sorry, I didn't read that right, or I took it the wrong way. And it also shows their vulnerability. It shows that they care. And I think that that is something that terrifies this person. The timing just wasn't right for us. I feel like this person was going through a difficult time, which is why they, weren't balanced to begin with and got triggered so easily, because they were, dealing with some situations and they don't really know how to deal with situations. I feel like this person runs from them. That's what I feel. I feel like they're like, I didn't They weren't equipped. You know, when you're already in a bad place and then somebody says something, this person wants to be more than friends. Just being near you is intoxicating. So I think, you know, when you love somebody or you like somebody a lot, it gives you energy because you're like, I got butterflies, you know, like this person wants to feel that. It's like, it's different. It's like, it makes life a little bit more exciting, right? When you like somebody, but they're not strong because again, of how they reacted. So there was a long time that this person waited for a sign from you, which you're like, why would I reach out to you after you treated me that way? So again, this is why this person knows, you know. And I also think that they took that the wrong way. I feel like they took your silence as, oh, look, your butt hurt. Like I now you're hurt because I'm teaching you a lesson. But your silence wasn't that. You just disconnected, like, okay, like you want to be that way, bye. So another reason why this person looks stupid and is like judging themselves. So many things remind me of you because they have feelings for you. So it's like, obviously, I mean, but that's part of it. There's a bigger reason. This person has to surrender their ego. You know, the only way to get ourselves back to the energy of unconditional love, the energy of God, is to surrender ego. And it's when we're least resistant, and this person is fighting. See, any soulmate, that's what the job is really to do, because there is a familiarity of love. Again, the butterflies and the excitement, and it raises your energy. But understand that this person has blockages. They wouldn't have that excitement. They don't have that excitement. They can't generate that excitement on their own. It's the connection. And it's the connection because they haven't spent time with you. Like you said, they were in pride. They were angry. They held back. And they held back thinking, oh, well, like now you're hurt. See, you're not talking to me because, you know, how dare you talk to me like that? You need to apologize to me. And then imagine all this time has gone by. This person's rereading text messages and they're like, that's not what they meant. Why did I react that way? Why did I do that? So there's a part of this person that is becoming a better person because they never looked at anyone else's feelings before aside from their own, you know, especially when they were in that survival situation. And we can ask what was going on, which we should, but we also should say, what is this person's whole, you know, what's the whole point? And the spirit saying, well, again, there's a lot of reminiscing on the past day. This person wants. It's like, and that's the lowest energy. It's usually lust, right? And it's because there is love, but that's who this person, they haven't healed. The relationship allows them to surrender their ego. That's the whole point of the connection, right? To surrender the ego, to bring a person back to the energy of unconditional love. This person was going through a lot of shit to begin with. As we said, let's take a peek at what that is. Because right now it's almost like we still see the person not 100% because they're not coming to you. They're waiting for a sign from you. So they're still pretty much in their ego even though there's feelings. So you're not going to see anything, but there's a realization of I reacted the wrong way, I got triggered, and then I was an asshole. I thought that you were hurt, I thought that you were mad, and I thought that I was teaching you a lesson. And it just so happens you taught this person a lesson because, you know, it's like because of the way that you reacted. But that's again why this hurts is because there really is an attachment. There really is a heart's desire. to pursue this. It's just this person that wanting to control the relationship made the relationship turn into where it's at now. Well, it's understand that it's very likely that they're going to come back sooner than later. And the reason why is because, hey, there's just an emotional force that this person can't explain. It's like they're not very emotionally intelligent. They're not very spiritually, evolved. They're more like, again, left brained, which is logical and analytical, and, which isn't a wrong way to be. But when you've had wounds, spirit saying it's like, that's the only thing that's going to surrender the ego. The fact that they can't stop thinking about you, the fact that you are on their mind, the fact that they know that they're the reason why things are the way that they are, and that they didn't really fully give this the full chance that it deserved. And so now they're still stuck in a place of worry, which is really uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to stay in that energy of, I wonder whether or not did I ruin this connection? Will you ever talk to me again? There's still an emotional force, and the emotional force doesn't get weaker when it's real. It begins to take over. And the spirit says again that, like, are terrified that you're moving on. Maybe this person feels the void from being in separation right now. So, and that makes this person feel really uncomfortable again. And they're just have this emotional connection. And so it doesn't logically make sense, because there's a lot of triggers there. You see, this person's full of triggers. That's because of whatever they've gone through in the past. So they projected a lot of it onto you during that time. But Spirit's saying that's the reason why. It's the emotional connection. If it was anyone else, they wouldn't have. But it was because this connection required their heart to be open. It wasn't the right time. And normally I don't agree with that statement, I have to tell you. But this time I do. Because it's like this person just didn't have the capacity. They're not that great to begin with. They're like, on a scale of 1 to 100, maybe they're like a 30% when they're working at their maximum, not even half, 30%. So imagine when things are actually happening that require some emotional intelligence. And when you are going through something difficult, what you see is at best maybe 10. And that shows when a person's they've gone through stuff and they haven't healed it and they haven't looked at it. And so the Spirit's saying so they try to control it and conceal it. That's like what they tried to do. And, always try to change the narrative, but they can't change the narrative here because there's still an emotional connection. That's the problem. It's like this person used to be able to tell themselves that it was the other person's fault, that it was whatever. They can't do that because there's an emotional connection. It's like, which at the end of the day, who fucking cares? And that's what this person is finally going to come to a place of surrender. And that's through who fucking cares? I'm the one, I still have feelings. I'm still the one emotionally connected. This person doesn't even care. Now they're on the other side of that wheel, karmic wheel. It's like, and it doesn't feel good to be on that side of the wheel, especially when you have wounds with love. It actually feels worse. Again, the tension. It's the tension, it's the anxiety, it's the stress, because I have feelings that accelerates everything and it almost ignites. It's Spirit saying, because you can't control love. God is love. That's like going against the universe. Are you going to win? No, you're not going to win. You can try to control, But when you try to control, creates a lot of stress. You begin to become extremely triggered by everything. You begin because you know you can't control. You can't control anyone except for yourself. And you're not supposed to try and control anyone except for yourself. This person's trying to resist it, waiting for a sign from you. Time's going by. They're being reminded of how they treated you. It's accelerating because there's an emotional crescendo building up because God's inside of you. So there's a good angel and there's also a bad angel. And when things are true, it's like it's right there. So it's a combination between this person feeling bad, feeling like an idiot, feeling like having to be vulnerable, having to admit that they were wrong. It's all of it. So, but they're terrified that you're going to change directions, that they're afraid. They don't want you to change directions. And Spirit says that, well, of course, it's the love. It's like they don't want to, but they're being faced with either you're going to do something or that's it. This is the end of a chapter. That's it. And because this person's not going to do anything. As I said, the karmic wheel. This person knows it, and there's a part of them that's like, who wants to believe in serendipity, and I feel like they never experienced that before again, and they'll almost like waiting for a sign. And I feel like they're going to get it, to be honest with you. There's a sense of, again, where they just get cold. They see something, and they just feel like, again, intuitively, they're called to reach out. And this person, you might get a text message, you may call. If you block them off everything, they might show up at your house, they might show up at your job. Believe it or not, they're going to reach out because it's uncomfortable and there's still an emotional connection. And at the end of the day, that's really what's important. And that's what this person's seeing. It's like, I look stupid. Like I'm holding back, but I'm the one that still has feelings. This is stupid. And you were right by being like, I'm not going to play this game. Whatever this is, I don't think I'm going to be participating in this weird fucking game of yours. I'm going to be over here living. Bye. So of course this person is, and we don't really see any reason except for the fact that, past relationships, they were very rebellious, insecure, like just childish and like finding themselves, used to being independent. There's someone that is strong-willed, somebody that will be receptive, and there is a mutual like understanding, like maybe you mirror a lot of this person's same qualities, so they feel safe. But this person tends to be rebellious. They tend to not really want that type of, I want to not be really told what to do. I don't want to be tied down. I don't want to have to, because they were still finding themselves. And that happens when you grow up in an environment that's kind of really restricted, right? And so, but it's time. This person says it's time. It's time is for them. It's like they're curious. They want it. It's like there's a spiritual awakening happening to this person, which is I want to be loved. I want to be loved. I want to be cared about. I want to have a connection with someone. But it's like this whole thing was stupid. Like it was all about them controlling, but it was all about the fact that they got triggered because of what you said. And instead of coming back and fixing it when they should have, because they didn't really read the text message all the way. So I want to say, well, what else was this person doing? Because we can argue and say, well, They wanted to do what they wanted to do. Well, what were they doing? We have to ask that, because, again, we see why they did what they did, and we see why they want to come back. But what was going on? And will this person even want to talk about that? Well, again, they were still in their old habits. Their old habits probably were that they were partying a lot, or just wanting to be a loner, just not really wanting to be in this type of a connection, not even being a player, just being selfish with their own time. Well, Spirit says there was imbalances going on there. So they might have been in an imbalanced relationship. I feel like a few were in a toxic relationship where they're like, I don't like, it was an on, off. And this person didn't really have the emotional depth. They were with somebody that needed healing, and then they needed healing. So they never really opened up. They saw that relationship more like a obligation, where they never experienced a love like this. It's different. So I feel like they were in that. They were just empty. They were in like old habits. So whatever this person did in the past, that made them really not desire to be in a relationship. Spirit's saying it's like they always needed a little healing when it came to relationships. So it was easier for them to be in a relationship with somebody that I feel wasn't very strong, someone that would conform to them. You know what I mean? This person focused more on their money. They focused more on that. I don't feel like, it was ever really a past life connection, or if it was a past life karmic connection, where this person just felt like relationships are work. And that's when there's a lot of codependency. That's when there's a lot of where I don't feel like this person's codependent. I feel like they were with a person that was codependent, that kind of kept them very needy, like the person was very needy on them. So it's like they just didn't like relationships because that's what they experienced. Again, they felt like they were in a karmic contract, and you suggesting, hey, let's do this, let's get together, or all I did was say I wanted to get together for lunch, or all I said was for your birthday, let's go here, or suggested something nice, and they flipped out. And it was because they were with a person that demanded and demanded and demanded and demanded. And they didn't have the emotional bandwidth to heal that person. And they didn't love that person. So they were just not happy. So anything that anyone would say, they got triggered. So they put themselves in competition. They were impulsive. Again, they did without thinking is why they feel stupid, and they feel like, oh my God. But at the end of the day, they feel even more stupid holding back and not apologizing, because at the end of the day, you've moved on. It's like, and they're like, still like, oh, like, oh, this is like what, like, I didn't want this. And so Spirit's saying, yeah, but you didn't do anything to fix it, because they didn't want the judgment. They didn't want you to pass judgment. Again, their pride, their self-image. Again, stupid. Because it's like, okay, so you look a certain way, but it's like you like it didn't really look any way except for like controlling. But it's like this person felt like they didn't have control over their life, is what it looked like. That there was someone that was pulling on their energy. And it could be like a karmic person. It could be somebody from their past. It could be someone that they were still with. It could be somebody that, is family member. It's collective reading. But nevertheless, they didn't have control over their life. And you saying something nice, it's like, oh, I didn't read that right. I read it like, again, through a different lens. And so Spirit's saying, you have to say, you're going to hear from them. And then it's, you have free will, but you need to still say, why did I attract this person into my life? What are they teaching me? Because understand, you just taught this person a lot. You taught this person to surrender their ego. You taught this person to that love is the most important thing. You taught them that they can have a normal, non-codependent relationship because you walked away and you don't give a fuck. You're like, bye, not going to settle for less. That they've always shot for lower hanging fruit because it was easier, but they never get good results. And it's because of how they feel about themselves. So you taught this person a shit load of karmic lessons, which is why it's an important connection. Okay, this is like spirit doesn't just say, oh, they're just crazy about you. There has to be a reason why. But understand they would also have to teach you. That's what it's about. Right at the end of the day, that's because God says, I don't really care if you're with this person or not. It's like, I care if you learn the lesson. I care if they learn the lesson. I care if you revert back to wholeness. I care if you, can, like, that you believe that there's no separation between me and you, the energy of love, the energy of God, that you again can create your own heaven on earth. Like, I hope that you believe that I made you in my image. And if you pull imbalance to you, well, I'm trying to tell you that you also have imbalance. It's like, because we don't get triggered unless we have imbalance. Okay, so spirit saying, and everybody has imbalance. I don't care how healer you are. The more healer you are, the more fucked up you usually are. And it's, otherwise you're not on this path. You don't get this path if you're 100% healed. It doesn't work that way. And spirit says, and when we see belittled and oppressed, right there is tells us when a child isn't allowed to form their own unique individuality, find their own process. And if a parent doesn't like their process, it's like, you're not learning the way that everybody else does. You don't do it like everybody else does. Maybe you're a highly sensitive person. You were tactile. You needed to do it in order to learn it. Maybe you have other gifts that, again, those gifts aren't important. How'd you do on your math test? Oh, you failed it again, huh? Dummy. Belittled. It's like when the parent is the bully. It's oppression. And it teaches the other siblings that it's okay to treat you just as badly. It's like, so you become the scapegoat. You become the problem in the dysfunction. So you're taught it's safer to be alone. It also teaches you to be extremely resilient, extremely strong, because, hey, no one's going to help, but you're not taught self-love. So you may think that you do have self-love, but it's like Spirit says you aren't shown. So you're going to be like more humble. You're going to be more conscious of other people's feelings. You become the unhealed healer, the wounded healer. Really, that's really what it is. And so, but you have, and I know that because look at this cleansing energy. You have somebody that has that. You're someone that actually is very intuitive. Inner authority is, hey, it's like, I know because I lived. I've been there. And so Spirit says, yes. And that person needs a lot of healing. And you've been there. So understand you're also used to living in chaos when people treat you that way. It's like, yes, needs are met, like food's on the table, but if you're being treated less than everyone else in the household, you begin to live that way when people act superior to you. And it's a form of bullying. It's a form of making a person cower down. And obviously that's not a healthy environment. It puts somebody in where they're stuck in like shame for no reason, feeling bad about who they are because that parent didn't like your process. They didn't like something that you did. But again, the way that they taught, you was harsh. It's like they were a bully, and because they trained everybody in the house to be that way. So you'd find a brother not that nice, or a sister not being that nice, or having an aunt or an uncle all of a sudden not be nice, because they created the narrative. They created the narrative, which is a form of gaslight. Again, to make you feel a certain way about yourself. And so remember, imbalance is this, it's just trauma. At the end of the day, you lived with a lot of that, like you lived through a lot of trauma. Why? Because your safety and your security is supposed to come from your parents, your home that you live in. And that's not what happened. You didn't feel that safe. You didn't feel, and understand there's a lot of reasons why. It's not a blame game, even though a lot of times we get caught up in the story. But the spirit says we have to bypass the reptilian mind, which is why we say, well, why? Why is this like that? Oh, okay. Because we can't really forgive until we understand. We could say we forgive, but no, we don't. Because you can't fully integrate the spiritual lesson. So we understand, okay, this is why I would attract a person that had a lot of blockages. Because, hey, look how difficult it was. You had to grow up with a closed heart. So again, if you didn't feel safe, that's what it would be. It's like you were also taught not to trust people in your environment, and that, so you become hypervigilant. And so hypervigilancy will bring either people pleasing, which, by the way, people that are imbalanced tend to look for, how forgiving, how much you'll do, how much you'll abandon yourself, And Spirit says, so you have to understand that why it happened, what, like the connection, what is the whole point? Spirit says, to integrate the fragmented parts of yourself. Okay, it's again, you grew up in an environment that created that. Your sense of self, who you are. You weren't allowed to have a process. You were oppressed. You were bullied. You were, again, gaslit to make you feel that you were not really like all that you're made. God says, I make you in my image. Like you said, you're perfect. But again, when you look at yourself through fragmentation, that's not what it's going to be. So it was to integrate, because it brought up all those emotions. This person brought up all these emotions for you to really make you look and understand you do have a guardian angel, someone that kept you safe, someone that gave you your healing energy, that you're able to do that. So Spirit's saying you need to look beyond the illusion, like discern truth from fear. And that was first by doing your own shadow work, and also learning how to flow with grace, not let anybody's bullshit take you off your path. It's like not have control over your energy. And when you grow up the way that you were brought up, you understand you didn't know that that's what your mother or your sisters or brother or father or whoever it was creating that gaslight for you, but you saw failure continuously. So you would say, I'm not capable, where God says you can capable as long as you are mindful of the people that are around you, and if you were wired to, self-sabotage. So you didn't do that, but you also didn't let that person take you off your track. You, again, stood in the place of having unshakable faith, which is what you have to do. This is a test, and a test to show your strength. Again, spiritually strong, Like your actions are what spoke volumes. It's like, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to entertain this. I'm not going to, it's again, that you have no power over me. I detach my energy. It's like there's nothing that a person can fight. They can't fight you on that. You force this person to look at themselves where while you did not skip a beat on your own path. That is what made this person say, wow, this person is like more my style. It's again someone that, they don't need me, they want me. There's a difference. And so Spirit says, there you can see, but now this is all about you. And these cards stuck together, so we have to take it. And so it's like bold action and leap of faith. So Spirit says, this is not really about paying attention to this person. Let them come back, let them do whatever, but this is about you still being on your path. So join that networking, sign up for that club, go to like to get a new job, take bold action, outside your comfort zone. It's like right now everything's on your side because you're spiritually in alignment. You didn't let this person take you off their track. Whatever they want to do, that's whatever they choose to do. Spirit says this is about you keeping the momentum within your own life because you can't just let a person back into your life. They yes, they're sorry, but they still are creatures of habit. So you have to create the new habit. And that's where you're like, I'm not codependent because this person's going to be triggered by that. If you don't think that there's going to be more triggers, you're crazy. It's like we don't see healing. What we see here is I have feelings, I have a recollection of what I did, but their habits and their behaviorisms are still going to be what they are, which means you have to teach the person. Like I said, it doesn't mean that they don't, that's the whole point. Unconditional love. If you have unconditional love for this person, you will not mind doing it where you're like, I'm just not around. And yes, you're going to feel uncomfortable doing it. That's why you're getting a person like this. Boundaries. You have a problem with boundaries, Spirit's saying. So we're going to give you this person where you're the one that's going to need to say, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. That's uncomfortable for you too, huh? Because you grew up being oppressed. Yeah, we get it. Tough shit. You got to, again, tell this person you're getting a do it yourself, build it yourself person, meaning whatever you're going to program it is what's going to come. So because this person doesn't know, but they are coming back and they want communication and they want to be more than friends and they want to know. But who do you think is healing them? It's by you healing yourself. You have to heal yourself. And how would the Spirit actually know that you healed yourself? You're in physical form to learn and to manifest. You're getting this person. They're willing to do it, but you teach a person how you want to be treated and you haven't taught very well, is what Spirit says, which is because of where you came from. But you should have done the healing. And you have shown that because, again, you're not entertaining this. But that doesn't mean this person's not going to come back. It's, again, karmic mate. There's a choice. Do you want to step it up or don't you? This person does, is what Spirit says. The whole point is to alchemize the negative energy. It's like you just can't get rid of saying, oh, negative energy, be gone. It doesn't work that way, Spirit says. It's like you're in physical form. I want to see it. I want to see it play out. Because either you get it with this person or you're going to get it with another person. Because, again, it's karmic. It's what has been created before that blocks you from really getting everything that you want within a relationship. And that might mean, hey, someone that does take me away, that does make me feel special, that does create those intimate moments with me. I always get people like that are emotionally not capable. And Spirit says, well, guess what? You get another emotionally not capable model here. The model, emotionally handicapped 2000. But you get to program it. So it is capable, it's again, but it doesn't know what to do on its own. You're gonna have to teach it. And if you love this person, you won't care. You won't take it personal. You'll be like, but of course I'm going to take it personal because that's what keeps happening. And God says, you don't change the environment. You always get the same karmic theme until you deal with it different. So either deal with it with this model or you're getting someone else of equal or lower value. It's your gamble. It's like, well, I don't want that. I don't want somebody worse. And the spirit says, it's again, the universe conspires to bring you what you need and kind of makes it like it's going to be difficult for you not to pick it. And that's because this person is going to be like, pleading and feeling sorry and pulling on the heartstrings. And the universe saying, well, you need to do this anyway. So what the fuck's the point? And it's like you can get it with this person or you get a different person. This person's actually, what you got, spirit says. So it's a gamble. But, it's all about you learning to release control, surrender, because you also need to surrender. It's again, no, I don't trust this person. And God says, you don't trust anything. And so it's not about trusting the other person. It's about trusting yourself. You're the person that teaches. It's about you going with the flow of your life through the passion of your life and not letting anyone take you off your track. Because that person is going to be a little emotional and needy because we know that they're not emotionally intelligent. So Spirit says that that's your department. That's yours because you are, again, are the unhealed healer because you never get what you want. You always I get a version of what I want, but I don't know. It's like the defective. There's something wrong with it. It doesn't work properly. And God says, well, see, I don't make things that like a defective and I don't make things that don't work properly. That's a you thing. And you're like, yeah, but I can't figure it out. And God says, well, defective 3,000 emotionally unintelligent model, here you come. It's like because you're going to get what you want if you do it properly because this person wants to do it. It's like they don't know how and understand the challenge is what makes the person like really grow that emotional bond because you're like, no, I'm not putting up with that. And it's like, nah, I'm not going to be around. Nah, I have this. No, I want you to do that, which is not your nature. And the Spirit says, because you weren't allowed to be that way, but now I need you to speak up. It's again and direct your life. I made the world with my voice. You too can create the world with your voice. But you don't do that. You're like, I don't care, whatever you want to do. And the Spirit says, not anymore. It's again, you should have learned. It's again, that's the whole point of the reading. It's that's the whole point of this relationship. It doesn't need to be the same. Oh God, this is going to be the same exact thing. The Spirit says, no, it's not. It's like, but it depends on what you do. How are you going to deal with it? The moment that the person gives you a hard time, bye. It's the same thing. Good morning. Sorry, I didn't see you. So Spirit says this is about the wounded warrior being like, you have wounds that you never created. It's like you were born into family karma. It's like because families don't do that, like where like a parent bullies you and gets everybody else to create that narrative to make that's somebody that has mental issues. That's somebody that's spiritually off. And that is fragmentation. And when there's fragmentation, you can attract attachments, you attract negative demonic forces. And that's what that is. When you have like a person like that, that's a parent And then the kids are like, well, that parent needs to be mad at someone all the time. So let it be that person. Let it be the scapegoat. Let us all treat that person that way to create that narrative. So understand none of those people are going to want to ever see you different. So it makes you automatically feel different. So, especially if none of the siblings get along. If none of the siblings get along, already know that there was fragmentation and there was demonic spirits that was attached to that parent, which rotted the roots. And the roots are there are no roots. And so when there isn't, it's like you automatically wind up like in this victimhood mindset. Like it's not your fault. And it's not, because it's like you were inherited it. So it almost feels like I can't do anything to escape it. I don't see a way out. And it shows up as like a tendency to see yourself as powerless and controlled by outside forces, because for a long time, outside forces did control it. They gaslit you, but they gaslit you to make you feel a certain way about yourself that you began to think. And that's why gaslighting is dangerous, because you begin to think whatever the narrative is that person or that group shows you, so that you again become powerless through your own making, right? So it's almost like if it becomes too expensive for you to live, right? Like you can't pay for your groceries, you can't pay for your rent, you can't pay. It's not that you're not trying, but understand as you're working hard, everything around you is going up in price, except for your salary. That's a narrative that you're living. That would make you feel powerless. However, you're not powerless, because the kingdom of heaven's inside of you. Would you need to create another source of income? Would you need to change your life? Yes. And that's where scary comes into play, because that calls on your will, where your mind is going to say, oh, there's not enough jobs. It's really not that bad. It's not. So Spirit's saying, but over time, that's what people know. They're like, I have you by the kahunas, because you're afraid to change, where really we're supposed to be able to go with the flow with grace. Doesn't matter what the environment tells you. The environment can tell you that it's not capable. You have the divine inside of you that makes you as powerful as God itself, because God works through you and makes a way where there is no way. So the lack of faith, and that's if we have to practice faith. It doesn't come into our lives. We have to practice it. It's a ground thing. So victimhood is a sense of I feel powerless, but you're never powerless, is my point. It's again, and then we see humiliation, which is, well, then I'm going to be taken advantage of and I'm going to look stupid because of my sensitivity, because of my niceness, because I let people in. So it's almost like this, either I have to be super nice or I have to be an asshole. And God says, nah, you have to find balance. You have to find balance, and that's by going with the flow of life. And that's, again, not letting other people disrupt you by emotionally being able to sustain yourself by being like, no, I'm not tolerating it. Cut. Or here, I can still have feelings for you and treat you decently, but I still need to teach you. You might say, I don't want to do all that. And Spirit says, you may not, but in it, you will be assisted. And you will be assisted because it opens up your own intuitive abilities, your crown chakra that connects you to source. It connects you to having better discernment. It connects you to unity consciousness, because unity consciousness happens when you're not always with one person. It's through being on your own path. Remember, the path unfolds while you're on it. And so Spirit's saying having a blocked chakra is because holding on to a cognitive dissonance, which is I want it, but I don't. And it's like, I want it because I have feelings for this person, but I don't want it because I can't trust this person. And Spirit says they're coming back different, but it's also, do you trust yourself? It's like, and that might mean like is the harder thing. Remember, Spirit doesn't care whether you take this person back or not, but you're not the victim of your life. It's not, one or the other. It's actually both, finding the balance within it. It's if you have feelings, for those of you that actually have feelings, this person is a past life karmic mate, but they're coming back, and they're coming back, I would say, as a twin flame. And there's somebody that, yes, you will be required to do that, but that's within your healing. That's because you have to heal. And because you're like, I don't even know what that looks like. And Spirit says, see, that's the problem. You act like somebody else is just supposed to come in and treat you the way that you want. When that's not, you have to be conscious of what you teach people of that. And if you weren't allowed to have like an identity where you were oppressed, well, again, it was more about being accepted, being loved, being like keeping the peace. It wasn't about, being respected, and so Spirit says, and that's the issue. So you can have exactly what it is that you want. The illusion is that you can't. And we're going to end off with one more. And is it scary? Spirit says, yes, that's what you got to do. Yoga, breath work, body, mind. Because what you'll be like, now I'm triggered all the time. And Spirit says, because you're going to find yourself wanting to control. It's again, instead of surrender. And that's because old patterns are going to be there. It's not, but that's why the relationship is hot and passionate. And this, because nobody would want this shit. Nobody would want it. It's the fact that there's such a paradox, and there will be when there's a heart and mind fight. And there's a heart and mind fight on both parties because both parties need to learn how to surrender. It's like, and that's based on childhood shit. But the wheel is in your favor, is what Spirit's saying. Expect contact, positive action, Spirit says. Focus on the beauty in you and find silence. You live and honor the present moment. Don't think about what this person did do, what they're going to do. Only in the now do you get divine guidance, and you do what you can do in the moment. What you can't change, you let go and you entrust in God. You surrender. You surrender to the process. That doesn't mean you put up with abuse. Remember, if it's something that you don't like, you disengage. You continue to focus on what it is that you're growing and creating for yourself. And you say, well, why? Spirit says codependency. When there's codependency, which when people are oppressed and they're gaslit, there's a sense of not being strong within yourself. What you saw is you gain strength. Look at your situation differently. You're strong to have gone through that. You may feel weak, but you're strong. You gain the wisdom on how to direct your life. Remember, the same habits and behaviorisms that helped you survive will block you now from thriving. So healing doesn't feel good because it's like, oh, I feel bad. And Spirit says, you're not responsible for other people's feelings, emotions. Again, all that, when you're brought up with oppression, it's a big deal. A master healer is somebody that has to master themselves. And they master the enmeshment, where that's like, I don't feel the need to fix your life. I don't feel the need to take responsibility for your happiness. I'm only in charge of mine. When you're gaslit and oppressed, you're made to believe that you're the reason why. And so Spirit's saying, so there's a lot of habits and behaviorisms that go with that. So even though that this person kicked up a lot of those emotions, it wasn't because of you, it was their blockages. However, it made you look, they're coming back. It's an opportunity for you to actually integrate the spiritual lesson. So you could either do it with this person, or you could do it over the next 10 people, 5 people. You might as well do it with a twin flame, because at least there's passionate sex and the person's moldable, so you can actually get what you want. It could be a good relationship. It's just like, I didn't get this one already put together. I had to put this one together myself. And Spirit says, you'll like it because you get to do it yourself. And a lot of us are like, no, I want it already made. And Spirit says, it doesn't work that way. Not if you came from where you came from. It's like, this is about the real process of healing. This is what it looks like. That's why you get who you get. It's not random. All right, I'm going to leave that there. I'll be on later for my members only tonight. I'll put it up. Probably going to be on at around like 10:30. All right, so I'm trying to go on at all different times. So I hope to see you on later. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.